The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NBA.
The Oklahoma City Thunder get a huge bounce-back win in game number 2 against the Indiana Pacers.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Thunder winning a finals game for the first time in 13 years, getting this win to even up the series 1-1 as SGA was brilliant, and the Thunder got back to their identity, but also learned some lessons from game number 1. The Thunder have controlled this series. I mean, they've outright controlled this series for the vast majority of it. However, they let go of the most important part of it was game 1 in the fourth quarter when they let go of the rope. And then, of course, the Pacers led at the 0.3 second mark. And that's enough to get a win. That's enough to have a tied series. But it just shows that the Thunder are capable, as we knew heading into the series, of playing fantastic basketball. And tonight, they did it for the full 48 minutes. And I thought that there was a couple of quotes from postgame that really explain what has been an embodiment from this Thunder team, what has been their bread and butter this entire season. Chet Holmgren and SGA talking about what it feels like when you're playing Indiana and you get up by 15, 20, and you know that another Indiana run is coming. Chet Holmgren said, you can't play like you're up. You've just got to try. You can't try to just run the clock out. You have to continue to score and continue to stack stops on the other end. And SGA said, you can't just land the first punch. You've got to keep landing punches all game long. And he obviously gave the team some grace of you can't play a perfect game, but it's about landing as many punches as possible, not just the first one. And so often we think about that first one and how it sets the table for the 48 minutes, but this Indiana team truly does play all 48 minutes. And this Thunder team responded in a game in which they grew their biggest lead in that second quarter, getting up by 23 points. Right after that, you saw the Pacers going a 10-0 run. So it was a 35-9 Thunder run that they were playing fast. They were making quick decisions. They were stacking stops, and it led them to a 23-point lead. Indiana calls a timeout, and Indiana immediately goes on a 10-0 run to put the Thunder lead to 18 at the half, which, the fact that the deficit only got cut from 23 to 18 is a big win for the Thunder at the end of that second quarter, considering how sloppy things got for them heading into intermission. And then the Thunder were able to parlay that into a second half where they continued to keep the foot on the gas, and they had to navigate through some adjustments of the whistle. The officials tonight, I thought, were consistent in each half. It was just a different consistency. The first half, they were consistent in letting everyone, it's just no holds bars. It's a bar fight in the first half. Second half, you couldn't look at somebody funny without getting a call on either side. And so each team had to adjust in real time to the different whistle. The Thunder did that. The Thunder were able to maintain their lead and were able to keep the Pacers at arm distance for 48 minutes instead of the 40 minutes from game 1. And that understanding of, hey, it can be at the 5-minute mark and you can be fending off the Pacers all game long. If you start to play, like Chet is saying, of like you're in the lead and you start to kind of go on cruise control, try to run the clock out, they're going to beat you. And to learn that lesson after one game has been what this young Thunder team has done all year long. It's funny how the conversation has shifted around Oklahoma City, because on every single squad show that we've ever done on this network during the regular season, you get beat over the head with Matt Moore and others saying that this team's too young to do anything. And then they get to this stage and they lose in game 1, and it's the biggest failure of all time. And they've continuously found ways to improve and learn from those mistakes. That's what's gotten them here. They had to grow up in that Denver series. They had to learn in that Minnesota series how to play with a series lead. And against Indiana, they had to learn how to play against the Pacers and how to play for 48 minutes and finish a game all the way through. Because the reality is, as Mark points out, that the Pacers are an acquired taste. The reality is that the Nuggets and the Timberwolves, they didn't make the Thunder run through the ticker tape. Right? They didn't make the Thunder finish. They gave up. They rolled over. In the blowout games of those two series, both teams were willing to wave the white flag. That's not in this Pacers team, even as, they have, a 1-0 series lead and have done their job, just like that Denver team had did their job in game one of that series. Like the Pacers didn't quit until it was, mathematically impossible for them to win. And the same can't be said for other squads, right? So they had to learn how to play a 48-minute game as a very young team, and they did that. And they did that mainly by playing quicker, making better decisions, by being better in transitional opportunities, right? It doesn't translate into numbers because they actually lost fast break points. They actually weren't too much better in points off turnovers tonight comparatively to game one, because they only forced 15 turnovers for Indiana. The Thunder had about 14 points off of those turnovers, so that they weren't even that much better in that area. But the process was better. The process was extraordinarily better in the half court. The Thunder ran much better offense in this game. They had higher screens. They actually set more screens, because typically the Thunder like to slip screens and just kind of ghost them. And that doesn't initiate the contact, thus initiate switches and initiate kind of miscommunication from the Pacers defense. They did that tonight at a much higher clip, and especially Isaiah Hartenstein went a long way in helping the Thunder create advantages with his screening. They had more ball movement. They had quicker ball movement, and they started the actions earlier in the shot clock and found multiple different opportunities in one possession to eventually break down this Pacers defense and eventually get points. And a large part of that was because of the MVP, was because of SGA. But you also saw Chet Holmgren bounce back in a big way. And you can't forget what you saw from Aaron Wiggins. I mean, like to put it frank, like more of your team showed up tonight than they did in game one. I mean, the Thunder made almost half their shots, 48% from the floor, 39% from three, 87% from the free throw line. The Thunder won the rebounding battle by 2. And to me, win the rebounding battle is a blanket statement in this case of, in every series, I've been looking at the Thunder just be competitive on the glass. You can't have these lopsided rebounding columns like you had in game one against Indiana, like you had in your losses to Denver. Can you just get within 5 of either side, right? 4 of either side, 2 of either side. And in this case, they got on the high side, 50-48. They turned Indiana over a couple of more times, 15-13. 13 is an extraordinarily, high number for the Thunder specifically. But when you look at how the turnovers happened, a lot of that was in the first quarter when they were sped up. And I thought that the adjustment to the game and the moment and the environment happened quickly for this Thunder team. It obviously had to happen, because in that first quarter, you saw this back and forth, 6 lead changes, a tie, the giveaways were all front loaded. I mean, that in that first quarter alone, the Thunder were kicking the ball over the court, it felt like, and you look at the end, and they had 3 of those turnovers in the first quarter. And then the first half, to kind of bring it out, they had 8 of those turnovers in the first half. So, the Thunder had better ball security as the game went on. They got more comfortable as the game went on, but they just simply made more shots, and it's a make or miss league. Like, a lot of the defensive stuff was the same. They changed a little bit. They were able to contest harder the corners as they did in game one, but a lot of the game was the same. It's just the shot making went down, right? Like, this is sort of where you just kind of tip it to a make or miss league. And that's where SGA really found his stride and took over this game as the league MVP, as the NBA scoring champion.
The NBA Finals are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action right now. When you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. FanDuel makes betting easy. Whether it's picking your favorite teams or diving into player props from three-pointers to steals, there's so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. You can place that first $5 bet on who you think will win the NFL Rookie of the Year. Travis Hunter is 9-1 to win the offensive award, but 10-1 to win the defensive award as well. I would probably take both of those. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
The Thunder take game 2. They're all over the Pacers with their defense.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast.
Game 2, Pacers crushed by the Thunder from late first quarter on. It was all OKC. Pacers with some pockets of success here little bit of thing there. Do they have some juice? It's a 13-point game. No, they do not. The Thunder defense strangling. Tyrese Halliburton, not good enough, limping off the podium at the end of the game. So much to break down from this Thunder defense that's cutting off the paint, that's playing connected ball and giving the Pacers a ton of fits in the second game. And for the first time in the entire playoffs, the Pacers aren't up 2-0, and they're not ahead in a series after winning the first game. The story of the game that everybody's talking about, and I think poorly, which I will now explain, is Tyrese Halliburton's night. Now, let's be clear, and we got to start with the obvious things. Just not good enough. 7 shots through 3 quarters. I believe he had 5 in the first half. His 3 gave the Pacers their 3-point lead in the first quarter, the biggest they had of the game. And then he couldn't get going at all. 2 shots in the third quarter, giving him 7 through 3 quarters. And I'm going to use the through 3 quarters a lot here, and you'll see why as we continue. If you watch the game, you know why. He could not get going at all. The other part of this that I think is under-discussed and leads into a lot of where I want to go with this, he had 3 assists very quickly in this game, right? And that is sometimes what I think people miss, is that he'll have 7 points, but like 9 assists at halftime of the game. He had 1 assist on the very first play. Siakam hits a 3. He gets his first assist. Andrew Nembhard 3 with 7:39 to go in the first quarter. He gets his second assist. Ben Mathurin with a 3 with 4:38 to go. He gets his third assist. He did not record another assist at all in the first half. And then in the third quarter, more struggles with the passing. Only 1 assist in that quarter too. So it was twofold struggles that suggest that this is more than just be more aggressive, man. Go take more shots. And I'm not even saying that with a snarky tone to just be like, that's a silly way of looking at it. But I think it is in this game, because here's what's going on here. Look, I think it's been well established by people who watch every Tyrese Halliburton game. If you've just been watching the playoffs, if your perception of him is wrong, whatever, he's probably the best player in the league that can singularly be shut down by one amazing defender. And I don't mean shut down like completely erased from a game, but you can stick Lou Dort on him as the Thunder, and you need other help. People are right by him when a screen is coming. It's not that Lou Dort is just all over him and shutting him down and that's it, because the Pacers could just set a screen and get him going, right? It's not that simple, but he's the best player in the league that kind of just one guy can really cause that much kind of trouble. And it's as much on Halliburton as it is the Pacers to make that not the case. So let's zoom out for a second. Thing 1, Tyrese Halliburton has to be better. He has to find avenues against weaker defenders to get better shots. Right, one of his last shot of game 1, Cason Wallace is on him, wiggles to a spot he likes, fades away, and scores. Right, he can do that against a Cason Wallace level defender. There are plays where he's like the end of the third quarter where he comes across the timeline. Here's Lou Dort. Here's a second defender. He's got to get off the ball right away. Aaron Nesmith's open. Aaron Nesmith steps back for 3. Even Aaron Nesmith gets blocked. That's the Thunder defense in a nutshell. So here's what's going on. And we'll talk a lot about the paint defense for the Thunder in the second segment here. The way the Thunder defense gets its strengths is they cut off the paint so well and they force turnovers. The Pacers love to get in the paint and love to never turn it over. It's part of what makes them so potent. Halliburton is seeing so many bodies around screens when he's going to the paint that he's not going that way because something else is more open. So the natural instinct of a pass-first point guard there is probably correct. The Pacers had success in game 1 with Siakam attacking the defense in that exact situation, with Andrew Nembhard attacking the defense in that exact situation. Aaron Nesmith is one of the few guys who can kind of bully his man and get into the paint in this game tonight in the series, and he's not finishing that well there. He had actually a couple plays where he just got completely shut down in the paint, but that's available. The Pacers did not do well enough in those 4-on-4 situations, but that's what Halliburton is seeing and why he's having so much trouble. I don't think this is a won't. Right, I don't think Tyrese Halliburton is getting the ball and saying, I'm not going into the paint. It's not an active choice. I mean, it kind of is, but it's not because he won't. It's because he kind of can't, given the coverage, or maybe shouldn't is the right word. And so that is why I think this is being talked about so wrong. Because, again, the headliner is obvious. He needs to be better. 7 shots through 3 quarters, not enough. 4 assists through 3 quarters, not enough. But it's also a team-level issue. And what I mean by that is, let's skip ahead to the fourth quarter, where Tyrese Halliburton takes almost as many shots as he took for the rest of the game. 7 shots through 3 quarters, 6 in the fourth quarter. 2 assists that period, 12 points. They win his minutes. It doesn't matter. The game was decided. So that quarter gets a little bit of a floats away into the memory wind kind of thing because the game was decided. If you watch this game, you'll know why this is the case. Like, he finishes the game leading the Pacers in shot attempts with 13. He was the Pacers' leading scorer in the game. It should not be talked about that way. But what is important in that quarter is, and I tweeted this is as much a Pacers thing as it is a Tyrese Haliburton thing. My exact tweet, if I could ever learn to scroll, it reads, Haliburton being better here is more about what the Pacers are doing than what he is doing, which is not meant to say that it's all about that. But what I mean to say is he was getting it on the move. Here comes a screen with Haliburton off the ball. He catches. He's a half step ahead of his defender. That helps him get into the paint because he doesn't have to beat his man and then see a defense. He's getting it in a spot where he can attack the baseline and not see all those bodies in the paint and get to a floater there. He's getting into those pitches at the top of the key with a big Miles Turner, whoever, that get him going on the move, get the big rolling into space. That was a key action to start the third quarter. Miles Turner was crushing to start the second half with pick and pops, with pick and rolls, with whatever, because he was doing exactly that. And so, again, do not take this the wrong way. Tyrese Haliburton has to be better. Think back to the December Pacers-Thunder game. It's almost the exact same conversation. But the Pacers won a game in this series. They know, even with the defense played against Haliburton, what it's going to take to get him going. And it takes a team effort. And you know it takes a team effort on games where when Haliburton is slowed, everybody is slowed. That's why it matters so much to me that the first 3 assists he had were for threes, because that defense being played by OKC shut down Haliburton and thus everybody else, right? It really cut off the passes to shooters. It really made it hard for those players to get the ball in space. The Pacers figured out stuff as the game went on. Their cutting got better. Lots of things really looked more effective. But when Haliburton can't be himself getting 2 feet in the paint, spraying it out from there, the whole Pacers offense looked worse. So this is on Haliburton, obviously, to, one, be better at getting past his own man, getting into the teeth of the defense, making plays from there. But this is also on the Pacers to find strategies and create situations where he can have success doing those things. That is where I think the game shifted. And for him is when they found some of those things. And that's what they need to carry into game 3 is what happened in that fourth quarter. Can they do that again to start the game or earlier in the process of the game? Because it didn't ever feel like the situations were there for him to be at his absolute best. And so that is the next step of the series. What does it take to get Tyrese Haliburton going? Because the Thunder have had his number a lot. And the 4-on-4 stuff for the Pacers elsewhere wasn't as good in this game. And he wasn't getting face guarded like Mikal Bridges-esque from the last series. But last series, Mikal Bridges starts face guarding him. They realize they need to get him going on the move a little bit. Guess what happens in game 6? He gets going on the move. He's more involved. He's not even scoring more, but the Pacers offense is just plain old better. So this is a new challenge. A very talented defense cutting off a player like this. They have got to make sure that the Pacers are doing all they can to get Haliburton his spots. That's what everybody always talks about. Who isn't him is it's on them as much as it is him. He's got to be better, and he knows it. He did have a little limp coming off the podium. I don't think it affected him during the game. It's obviously not an excuse for how he played. He did play in the game. He's got to be better. But, man, that was not good enough from him, and it was not good enough from the Pacers finding ways to make him be him. And that's the biggest part of why it's 1-1. Stats will remember his game incorrectly. I think he would admit that, although he did find some stuff with that floater, and that shot could be there. A signature shot of his career. No, never mind. He's had so many crazy game winners this playoffs. The first signature shot of his career, that Bucks game winner last year, was a floater. He's gotten better at it throughout his career. He's making enough threes in this series. He is the Pacers' identity in offense in so many ways. He's got to find ways to be better, to get in the paint, and keep the ball moving. The Pacers have to find ways to keep moving, to keep the ball getting back to him, and make sure that he is getting advantageous situations against a very tough defense.
Ever check your bank account and wonder where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast.
Tough start to the weekend. Yeah, I was not super stoked to see the news come out about one Zach Edey not being able to have a normal offseason, right? That's a major disappointment, a really big deal for this Grizzlies team. So much of what we've been sold on the Tuomas Isalo experience has to do with what a good screen-setting, legitimate big man can bring to the table. And now the Memphis Grizzlies are not going to get that experience anytime soon because this is not your everyday ankle sprain, right? Edey is expected to miss the start of this coming season due to surgery on this ankle. And this is from the Grizzlies themselves, their PR media release. During an offseason training session this week, Edey re-sprained his left ankle. It's important to remember, a little context here, timeout, little context. Edey has sprained this ankle a couple of different times throughout his career, and especially in the last year or so here with Memphis. One of the reasons his summer league was shortened last year in his rookie campaign. Imaging revealed excessive ligamentous laxity, which will require Edey to undergo surgery to address the laxity and restabilize his ankle. So essentially, his sprain is so severe that the tendon or the actual ligaments may have ripped from the ankle bone itself. Now, that's speculation. I want to stress that. Maybe you're a doctor in the comments. You can hit me up on X as well, at Joe Mullen X. Let me know how you're feeling about this. My understanding is they are going to have to go in and either tighten these ligaments, reattach them, some sort of situation that surgery is needed for a really badly sprained ankle. I had not heard of that before, but when it's a recurring issue, maybe they're just trying to nip it in the bud right now. Preliminary timeline will be provided following surgery. Edey is expected to make a full recovery, and this is from a piece by the Daily Memphian's Chris Harrington. Edey's agent, Mark Bartelstein of Primary Sports, elaborated to Shams Charania. After consulting with the Grizzlies and multiple specialists, we decided this is the best approach for Zach long-term, as it gets him back to 100% with no limitations. We'll make a full recovery and be back better than ever. Again, he has sprained this ankle multiple times. Since becoming a member of the Grizzlies, they have decided to have surgery on this ankle. Later on in the show, we're going to talk about trying to replace Zach Edey. And you're probably sitting there thinking, you big dumb dummy, Joe. Not talking about my daughter, of course. She's wonderful. But you big dumb dummy, Joe Mullinax, you're not able to replace the 7'4", 290-pound Zach Edey. One of the points of Edey's strengths on this Grizzlies roster is what he brings to the table is so unique. And there might be some options in free agency and the draft that maybe we can discuss. But the fact of the matter is this: without Zach Edey in the fold, at least to start the season, this Grizzlies team is going to look vastly different. It impacts Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ja Morant first and foremost. And that's one of the most difficult things about this injury is your two biggest stars are arguably the two that get hit the hardest by Edey not being able to play. In the case of Jaren, it's fairly simple. If you can't find a center replacement, whether it's on the roster or off of it, then you're going to have Jaren play a lot more 5 spot, a lot more center than you would like for him to do. He is much better as a 4. We have seen that consistently throughout his career. Yes, there are flashes of brilliance when he plays the 5, but he's not able to be the weak side help defender that you like. He's not able to be the rebounder that everybody would like for him to be better at. While Jaren, in a perfect world, is a center, power forward is where he shines brightest. And then Ja Morant, who is so dependent on those Zach Edey screens. We talked about it numerous times here on Locked On Grizzlies. The best Ja Morant that we have ever seen comes with Jonas Valanciunas and especially Steven Adams. Hold that thought on old Steven Adams on the court. When those bigs played alongside Ja, that he was able to get screens set for him. He was able to play with space and close that space with his elite athleticism, his nifty handle, all the things that make Ja Morant are amplified when a true big man that can set good screens is there on the court with him in the pick and roll. That's obviously gone in the here and now. It's not all doom and gloom. That's important to point out. We'll talk about outside replacements for the big main, Zach Edey, later on in the show, but Brandon Clarke still exists on the roster. And if anything, I do think that it makes it more likely that Brandon Clarke, as he gets healthier, he's not expected to miss any of the regular season. He did not have to have surgery on his knee. The expectation for Brandon is he'll be good to go come training camp early fall. And when that hits, Brandon Clarke being on the roster, although he is not 7'4", ironically, he's 8 inches shorter than Zach Edey, roughly. Clarke has the leap ability. Clarke has the lateral movement defensively, and Clarke also has the capacity to move and switch and be a wonderful front court partner with Jaren, just in a very different way. That Clarke being there will help negate, at least for Jaren, some of the impact of this Edey absence. Now, the rebounding remains a concern. That's not Brandon Clarke's elite space either. He's better at it than Jaren, but not by much. But you have that defensive malleability with Clarke that still amplifies what Jaren can do as a defender, that if Clarke is healthy, and that's a big if, similar injury to what Steven Adams had when Adams was here, but not the same body type, obviously, not the same injury, actually. Same injury, but different, if that makes sense. Clarke will hopefully be ready to go. And I also think that it makes re-signing Santi Aldama, who has been in the news as a rumored target of the Detroit Pistons. We're not talking about that at length on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. DeMichael can later on in the week if he wants. But I'm not going to cover it extensively because it's kind of like saying the Grizzlies want Kevin Durant, to be honest with you. Yeah, the Detroit Pistons should want Santi Aldama. He fixed some problems for them. Are they going to overpay Santi Aldama? Probably not. Maybe so, I guess. But the fact remains that Santi Aldama is restricted free agent, and until an offer is made on Santi, the Grizzlies have first opportunity to re-sign that guy. And Santi at 6'11", again, not a traditional center, not a traditional big, but he's another big man who can help fill some of that void. So is it possible to replace the 7'4", 290-pound guy? I guess we're about to find out, right? Unlikely that the Grizzlies are able to do so. But you can try to recreate him in the aggregate in a variety of ways, and you certainly can put bodies on the floor to help fill that void to an extent. I think Brandon Clarke becomes that much more important. Any and all trade machine fun can probably be put to the side for now. But I also think that it makes Santi Aldama's return important too. And it means that the Grizzlies might have to play a little bit differently than perhaps Tuomas Isolo wanted to begin the season. Because again, you watch his Paris basketball teams. Quick, athletic point guards having screens set by bigs. That is the fulcrum point for his offense. Ja Morant theoretically will be there, but the 7'4", 290-pound Edey will not, at least not to start the season. And it's a bummer because he has to focus on rehab now instead of growing his game. So get well, Zach. Obviously not the news that the Grizzlies and their fans wanted over the weekend, but no use crying over spilled milk, right? Feeling sorry for yourself isn't going to fix anything.